Hello, humans! Has media literacy become extinct, or at the very least an endangered species? Recently on Twitter, yes, I still call it Twitter, I made a throwaway tweet where I pointed out how Zootopia 2 was making a lot of callbacks to the original movie to the point where it was starting to reach Moana 2 levels of shamelessness. And oh my Poseidon, people sure got tail-hurt about it. People either said that I shouldn't judge a movie before it comes out, the usual nonsense of how it's not that serious, and some even being delusional in saying that it's not a callback because they read the novelization and therefore know that the carrot pin has symbolic meaning. First of all, I don't understand why Disney releases novelizations of their films before the films actually come out. You'd think they want to avoid spoilers. Secondly, this is representative of a bigger issue, which is the lack of media literacy in this world. In this video, I'm going to pick apart the quote-unquote arguments people have made about this and discuss the issues with people's lack of critical thinking, media analysis, and the overall death of media literacy. Before we begin, keep in mind that I have the power to delete your rude comments, and I will do so without hesitation. You can share your opinion, just don't be about it. Now, without any further delay, let's dive right on in. First of all, let's tear apart the ridiculous argument that this scene isn't a callback, which I shouldn't even need to do, but apparently people don't know what words like callback or even logic mean these days. First of all, just because a novelization says that there's more meaning to the carrot pin, which shouldn't even be released before the movie itself, doesn't mean that it's not still a callback. They literally play back audio from it that was recorded in the first movie. Not only that, but they play it several times within less than 10 seconds.
Just a dumb bunny. I really am just dumb bunny. I really am just a dumb bunny.
Now, I don't know about you, but that seems like a pretty obvious and blatant callback to me. I get that it's a sequel and people sometimes get a kick out of seeing callbacks to the original movie. However, this makes it obvious that it's just relying on nostalgia baiting, which can only get you so far. For example, while I love Toy Story 3, and it used to be my favorite of the Toy Story movies, I now find it weaker than the first two movies because of how it relied too much on nostalgia baiting, making callbacks to the first two movies and didn't exactly have iconic lines or moments that weren't already done in the previous movies. It's still a masterpiece, but the novelty wore off, and I wouldn't put it in the top 10 best Pixar movies. Zootopia 2 is just making a bunch of callbacks just for the sake of it, but in my opinion, a truly great sequel doesn't rely so much on callbacks. Great examples of this are Shrek 2, Toy Story 2, and The Rescuers Down Under. While Shrek 2 and Toy Story 2 reference events from the original movies, they don't make callbacks. The Rescuers Down Under doesn't even acknowledge any of the events of the original movie and tries to be its own thing, to the point where you don't even need to watch the original movie to understand it. All three are masterpieces and even surpass their original movies without relying so much on callbacks because their goal is to be great movies first and sequels second. Whereas with Zootopia 2, it's clear that it's a cash grab with so little passion that I honestly forget about its existence until it randomly pops up in ads. As for the complaints that you can't judge a movie before you see it, while it's true that you can't fully judge a movie or show before watching it, that doesn't mean that the warning signs aren't there. After all, have we forgotten all the hate that Wish was getting even before it was released? And look how that turned out, with the only movies in Disney's animated canon that are worse being Chicken Little and Home on the Range, which is by no means an accomplishment. Not to mention all the hate that I received when I criticized the Wings Club reboot before it was released, and it turned out my thoughts were absolutely correct. Why is it not okay for people to criticize something before it's released, but it's perfectly okay to blindly defend something before it's released? I get being excited for something, but that doesn't mean you should blindly defend something before you've actually seen it and acting like the person who criticized it murdered your entire family. Plus, why is something that isn't even released yet suddenly getting a bunch of stans that make talking about and gushing about them their entire personality? With people even creating Twitter accounts dedicated to talking about something that isn't even released yet. Another good example with this is with the Wicked movie. Now, if you watched my review of the Wicked movie, you know that I adore it, and I'm looking forward to the sequel. However, anytime that movie was criticized, even if the people who criticized it still love the movie, the stans are always ready to attack you for saying it's anything less than perfect. One criticism in particular is the absolutely atrocious color grading and how washed out the film is, to the point where it sucks out any of the magic. Someone on Twitter actually made great edits that fixed the issues, and what happened was that they were attacked for making it quote-unquote too cartoony. If making something colorful is considered too too cartoony, then somebody let me know when there's a vacancy in Toontown. I'm not gonna go into major detail about my thoughts on the color grading in the Wicked movies, since I've already covered that in my review of Wicked, and I plan on doing it again for my review of Wicked for Good, which I hope y'all won't let flop like it did my review of the first movie. But it just shows no one is willing to listen to any sort of criticism. They don't want you to share any criticisms because they just want you to blindly love it no matter what. Another example is how people complain when you criticize the bean-mouth art style in animated shows and Pixar's more recent projects. It's not an unfair criticism because it shows less creativity and doesn't exactly inspire people's imagination. Not to mention in Pixar's films that the style looks even weirder given its CGI. It gives a very cheap and childish tone that doesn't really work with the shows that tend to have more mature themes. Again, I'm probably showing my age, but I grew up during a time when animated shows had different art styles to represent a show's style and tone at a quick glance, inspire kids' creativity, and make them more memorable. Even shows that were done by the same animation team like As Told by Ginger, The Wild Thornberrys, Rugrats / Oh Grown Up, Rocket Power, and Real Monsters managed to make sure that they weren't interchangeable with each other. Even in crossovers like the Rugrats Go Wild, you can tell that the characters are from different shows, whereas with the shows with the bean-mouth art style, the characters could honestly be interchangeable with how similar they are. But anytime us animation fans bring it up, we're just asked why we're so negative all the time. Ever think maybe we're not too negative, but you just don't care enough? Speaking of caring, if you enjoy media analysis, definitely check out my awesome friend Calaxin Cares Too Much, who makes a lot of videos where she calls out people's refusal to care enough. But her name is definitely false advertising. We should all care that much.
If everyone always said it's not that deep, they would never lose money. They would never have a flop. And that means if they have nothing to lose, they also have nothing to gain in terms of putting actual effort into something, if people will just mindlessly consume it anyway.
People just don't want to hear criticism because they don't want to have to analyze media at all, because that means that they'll have to actually acknowledge issues in media and have to expect better. After all, one of the reasons people love to throw around the annoying phrase, "it's not that deep," is because they don't want to have to think about the deep things or see the problems in the world. They just want to be able to turn their brains off and enjoy things. I get wanting to not deal with the heavy emotions and just watch something simple and enjoyable, but even something simple like Winnie the Pooh has deeper meanings hidden there. Just because you don't want to see the deeper meaning of things doesn't mean it's not there. It's given the same energy of how people don't want to acknowledge that something like Thanksgiving isn't the simple and happy story that we were made to believe growing up, because it was originally a celebration of how they murdered hundreds of thousands of innocent Native Americans. Media tends to be reflective of the time it was released, and that honestly explains why a majority of media tends to be processed slop, because no one wants to think deeply anymore. They just want things that are black and white so they don't have to think about it and just criticize people who do analyze media for quote-unquote ruining their fun. But I personally find analyzing media to be a lot of fun. I love thinking about the deeper meaning of things and how it relates to me and others with different experiences than me, as well as criticizing things that disappoint me. I get not everyone is gonna analyze media like I do, but that doesn't mean that you should be getting all bent out of shape over someone criticizing something. It connects with people and shows what artists did great and where they can improve. It makes an impact on people. Just because something brings you comfort or is animated or whatever doesn't mean that it's above being criticized. We're allowed to share our impressions of something before it's released, and no one is forcing you to watch or respond to people's thoughts. After all, if you know that you're going to disagree, why would you watch it or respond to begin with? I'm absolutely sick of people saying that it's not that deep. If media wasn't that deep, then you wouldn't be getting all bent out of shape to begin with. Also, think about it. Does something like Zootopia 2 or the Winx Club reboot feel like something people are gonna watch and say that it made a major impact on them? Not very likely. I'm willing to bet that after being out for a year, Zootopia 2 will be easily forgotten, and we all know that the Winx Club reboot will be considered yet another blemish on the legacy of Winx Club, and they're just gonna go back and watch the original 3 seasons. It's not impossible for people to learn media literacy. Actually listen to different ideas without being a jerk that throws a tantrum or name calls just because someone disagrees with you. Let yourselves actually think critically and analyze the media you watch. I once refused to listen to the criticisms of Once Upon a Time because of how much that show meant to me. However, on a recent rewatch, I saw a lot of the criticisms and even stopped enjoying the show after season 3 because I couldn't help but see the criticisms that I used to blindly defend. That doesn't mean that I don't still love the show, or at the very least the first 3 seasons, but it means that I've grown and matured. There's nothing wrong with analyzing media and having literacy. It helps us grow as people and sharpen our minds. I'm not saying you use this as a way to attack people who enjoy something just because you think it's terrible, but you should still let people share their opinions even if you disagree. I couldn't couldn't care less if someone loves something that I can't stand. If it makes you happy, that's great. After all, I consider Raya and the Last Dragon to be a masterpiece, and people aren't exactly crazy about it, though I do acknowledge and even agree with some criticisms, namely Sisu. But don't be attacking someone who takes enjoyment from analyzing media. It's honestly a lot better than metaphorically just sticking your fingers in your ears and making noises so you can't hear people, or making a movie you haven't even seen yet your entire personality. No one is stopping you from enjoying what you enjoy. It's you who's trying to stop others from analyzing things and expecting more. So you're really the one trying to ruin people's fun. It's not a crime to have high standards, and it's something everyone should have. Give it a try, because you'll most likely enjoy having high standards. I sure do, despite the headaches that come with it. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with what I said? What are your thoughts on the current media literacy or lack thereof? Let me know in the comments. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to help my channel take off so I can do this as a full-time job, which I would really appreciate. You can also check out my other social media accounts in the links below. I'm the Wicked Merman from Under the Sea.